And now, Deborah Kobylt live.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Wonderful guest. We've got Sergio Liden. Sergio, thanks so much for joining us. You're an author, and this latest book is something you wrote based on your own life, His Own Way. Will you tell us a little bit about His Own Way and why you wrote it?
This is thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be on your show, Deborah. And hello to your audience. Hope to be back, and lots of love to all.
Yeah,
The
thank
this,
you.
this is the fourth book being released by the company that we started called Dad's Publishing, dadspublishing.com. There are 30 books that I've written so far. So this is the fourth one. I'll be releasing about every month and a half, 2 months for the next 5 years, and then hope to soon sign up other authors. This book was actually was written back in 2008. My son was diagnosed with autism when he was 3 years old, and my daughter's about a year and a half, 2 years older. She was 5 years old. She always liked to draw, and one of the things that I noticed in that 1 year after my son was diagnosed with autism, because that diagnosis scared the bejesus, if I can say that on air, out of my wife and myself. I
Yeah,
wasn't
because let's
sure.
face it, it was a scary time, right? You told me that your wife spent a lot of her time crying. She didn't know what to do. You decided to handle it a different way. I mean, it can flip upside down an entire family, right?
We freaked out. Did that mean my son was retarded? Did that mean he was always going to be like that? What was the future for him? Was it a death sentence? I had no understanding at that time. By the way, it's not a death sentence for anybody, just to clear that one out of the way. But of course, we were completely concerned about him. His sister, was 5 years old at the time, we kind of ignored her because he was the one that we were completely concerned about and scared for. So in
Mm.
that year, I saw that the drawings that she used to do were very sad, and I realized, wow, I kind of messed up over here. Women have that book when they're pregnant, what to expect what to expect when you're expecting, when they're going to be pregnant. The families we have information on autism. When my son was diagnosed, it was 1 in 150 children in the United States that was diagnosed with autism. Today, it's 1 in 54.
Wow.
3% of children, average 3% of children are diagnosed with autism, most of them in the northeastern part of the United States. Locations like Autism Speaks, incredible organizations. We can get all the information on autism, going to your local regional center to get free speech therapy and occupational and physical therapy. Everything is there. But one of the books that we did not have, which I wish we did, was this book, because it doesn't talk about the effects that autism has on the sibling of the child with autism. And please.
No, no, go ahead.
And that's one of the things that I realized I made a really big mistake by ignoring her needs. And she was sad. And that's one of the things that, the devastation of autism. First of all, autism and family statistics, divorce rates are up 10% with couples that have a child with autism. Anybody who has an autistic child, calm down, don't blame. Where it comes from, nobody knows. We believe. Is there a cure? We don't know. We think, we believe, and that's what is stated by every expert in the field. But autism is, lifelong. So far, it's a
Well,
lifelong.
there's also a huge spectrum, right? I mean, there's mildly autistic, and I believe that your son was diagnosed as severe autism with severe autism. Is that correct?
Absolutely, there's an absolute spectrum when it comes to it. So, something that we like to say in the autism community is that child with autism is that child with
Right.
autism, because it's a spectrum, very much so.
What is what
Go
is
ahead.
what is severe autism? And can you explain to me, some of the behaviors so that we understand, what your adorable son, what he goes through, what you all go through, what you've learned to deal with, if you would.
On the high end of spectrum, or low end, I'm not sure. The best form of autism to have is something we called Asperger's. It was believed that Albert Einstein had Asperger's, Bill Gates has Asperger's, Mark Zuckerberg has Asperger's. So if my son had Asperger's, I'd be retiring soon because he'd be a billionaire.
Right.
That wasn't my case. That wasn't the case for me. For myself, my son, it was no visuals. He would no eye contact. Eating was a level of impossibility. He didn't start eating solid food until he was 11 years old. At the beginning of the book, it starts off, my brother is autistic. It really is quite funny because the book is narrated by his 5-year-old sister. It's
Right.
what she saw.
By your daughter, right? Who's what, a year
Exactly.
and a half or two older than he is. So,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
So the way that she saw it was the way that I wrote it. My brother is autistic. It really is quite funny. It means he opens and closes doors all day and hops around like a bunny. That's how she saw it. For ourselves as parents, when we tried stopping our son from opening and closing the door, it became a 5-hour, 7-hour tantrum that just would not stop.
Wow.
After that, I just put my hand in the door jamb, and if the door got too close, it was my hand, not his, so that he was safe. In the state of California, he's the youngest individual in the state of California to both have a handicap plate and a handicap placard. He was 6 years old when he received them both. The plate goes on a specific car. The placard follows him wherever he goes because he loved running out in front of cars. The severely autistic diagnosis that he got meant that he didn't understand the aspect of danger, the aspect of, oh, this hurts, let me do it again. That hurts, let me do it again. So it became an incredibly scary thing for us. The stove, the kitchen, the refrigerator. There are so many dangers in a household that we don't even pay attention to if somebody's looking for it. And he always seemed to be looking for it. That was one of the scary things that, the reason that my wife and I were 24/7 staring at him, just making sure that he was okay, that he was not going to hurt himself. He'd get angry and he'd punch me, just constant punching. I'm 6'5.5". I'm a big guy. So, it was fine. But, when he got angry, those tantrums it destroyed days. Days came and went with tantrums until we figured it out. And that's why I say slow down when you have a child with autism. Answers will come slowly. The X factor to my son was doctor stated he will not meet milestones. He will not be verbal, solid food, don't consider that. He will not look at you. The tantrums are nonstop. Everything will be, your life basically sucks. But the X factor was the connection that my daughter had to him. And it was that level of trust and connection that he had with his sister, because as parents, we were taking him to therapies every single day. We were trying to get him to be our normal. On the surface, the book is very much about autism and a sibling dealing with a brother who's autistic. On a deeper level, it's the aspect of accepting and understanding somebody for their own way. We all have things that we do our own way, and it's acceptance and connection on that level that is important. We can pay attention to our differences, but if we look at our shared humanity, we're all the same. We're all a little weird. We're all a little quirky. And this one is simply told from the point of view of seeing a sibling that has severe autism. I write all the books and I do the storyboarding. My illustrator, Francesco Orazzini, I send him the storyboards, the drawings that I do for him to perfect it. So the pictures that you see on the wall in the house, in the story, mom and dad and sister are standing up straight, and the brothers laying down or doing something crazy. That's just the way things were. I come to understand after a while, and that he loved me from the beginning, that it was just him showing me in his own way. If it was changing his diapers when he was a baby and peeing on me, then later on punching me or hitting me or getting angry with me, it was his way of expressing. Now he's verbal. Now today he's verbal because of his sister. I was not, as my wife and I try to get him to act normal in our way, but that's not the way that he does things. He does things in his way, and his sister was able to pull him out of that stuff and able to express. Go ahead.
No. What I love is, as you said, when you initially were going through this, there was really nowhere for you to turn on. What do we do with how do we handle this with our other daughter or child, that we realize we've sort of ignored a little bit because we're trying to deal with the child with autism. And I picked out a couple of moments in your book, which, by the way, I don't know if it's going to show or not, but people, if you could pick it up yourself, the illustrations are just so beautiful, and it's beautiful. But I love two in particular. Even though I am the oldest and I just turned 5, it feels like sometimes No one knows I'm alive. That just broke my heart. Oh,
The What's the opposite of I love you, Deborah, for I hate this book. I hate this book because I did this to my daughter. It was an aspect of being honest and the effects that it has on other children. You know, my daughter always loved to draw, and I saw those illustrations that she did for that year after my son, after we were so completely involved in and worry of, with him, that we forgot about her. And, it wasn't the aspect of the third wheel that I saw that she felt. It was just the aspect of, why am I even here? And it was incredibly painful to acknowledge and to see that. I have friends who have children with autism that are in denial of the fact that their kids have autism. And, and the siblings are even worse off because they're not even starting the journey that I started many years ago. And by acknowledging the mistakes that I made as a dad and being
not
honest about it, go ahead.
They're not mistakes. Don't you think? Come on, it's the human condition. We don't know what we're doing. I've made my own mistakes as a parent, believe me, and we're just doing the best we can with what we're given with. I mean, you're sort of thrown into overload, not knowing what to do. But what I love is, though, it has come full circle with your daughter. It's just part of her story, right? Part of her story. As my brother held me, as she's starting to understand what's going on, as my brother held me, nothing would be the same. The anger I had towards him, like a lion, I would tame. So it was all about the love that came back to her, right, from her brother. And she started to realize that he can't help this. And it was that love between them that he held her that really turned it around. That, to me, is what I got out of the book almost more than anything, how love really pulls us through something like this, right?
Which was the X factor doctors were not thinking about or considering when they said, these milestones your son will not meet. And one of the things that for everybody to understand, I write these books I wrote it in 2008, but before I release it to anybody, I have to get my daughter's approval. And she read this book and she said, Dad, how did you know? And, when she was 10 years old, I told her brother was autistic and he does things differently. And she turned to me and said, Dad, I already know that. I already know that he's different. She just turned 18 on March 22nd. So she gets more information the older she gets. So letting the siblings know about the child who's autistic and that it's actually something, you slowly, that conversation slowly comes in. But it was the love and the connection, because in that story, the connection that my children had with each other, I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it at all. I was simply in the parent mode of must fix. When my children, when my wife was pregnant, all I wanted was a healthy children. And my daughter was what today is called typical, which means no disabilities. And my son was autistic. And I thought, wow, I failed here. I need to fix this. That's my job. But my failure was not, my failure was not there. Whether if it's genetic, if it comes from vaccine, wherever it comes from, it doesn't matter. That's not what I could concentrate on. I could only concentrate and pay attention to what I have. And having a son who's autistic, if I had the choice, of course he would be a typical child. But having a son that's autistic is the most incredible and beautiful gift that I've received. He is sweet, kind, and loving. We've managed to move our lives around in circles and figure things out so that he's happy and comfortable. For example, we used to go to Disneyland. I was members for 5 years. He loved Disneyland. We had a pass, the special pass for him where he did not have to stand in line, because he cannot stand in lines. Otherwise, he gets violent. The first time we took him to an amusement park, he got violent. I had to carry him, and we had to leave while he was punching me in the face. While, I was carrying him away. So Disneyland had a pass to go to the front of the line without understanding. It's not a disability. It's not a shorter line. It's no line. And Disneyland got rid of it. So we have not gone to Disneyland. I know anytime we go out somewhere, I must first make sure and check out everywhere we go. We went to a restaurant the other day for my daughter's birthday, and I asked them for the room in the back. So we got a private room, the four of us did, so I know that my son would be okay. If anybody saw, they'd just see a boy who eats an incredible amount of food. He didn't eat solid food until he was 11. And as soon as he turned 11, his sister was the one that introduced him to solid food because there was no pressure that she brought on with regards to the next milestone, to making him our way, the way that we see things, the way people should be eating food that way. She said, oh, you know what? There's no stress. There's no pressure. It was just this incredible, beautiful thing. And the love that my daughter showed my son and understood the anger that she had then, even, today, if we're just simply talking about a polarized country here in the United States, we can focus on the differences, or we can just accept and, stay connected to each other's humanity. We find out that we're all the same. We all want to be loved. We all want to be nurtured. We all want to have the credit for being the amazing individuals that we are. And once that stops, that's where the trauma is. I came from incredibly violent childhood. I've been sober over 30 years. At 16, I was in a group home called Penny Lane, and the program director there, Ellen Bradley, was the one who said, you know what, Sergio, you don't have to feel weird anymore. I accept and love you for who you are today. I got sober at 17. So today, passing that message I'm 48 now. So passing that message forward, because I could never thank her. All I could do is pay it forward. So with parents today, or even with anybody, whether or not, one of the things we say to the company, dadspublishing.com, because my business partner is a dad and so am I. By the way, the books are only available as ebooks, except to you. Because of the pandemic, it makes everything incredibly difficult. So they're all ebooks for the first year.
Right.
But one of the things we say is that they're children's books for the heart of the family. And something that I say is that the only requirement to read any of these books is that you have to have been a child at some point. If you were never a child, please don't pick any of them up. They're not for you. But if you were a child, because these books cross boundaries, they're kind of therapy. What I learned and what was given to me, the gift that was given to me from Ellen Bradley is, accepting me for my own way. Though I don't have any cognitive disabilities. I am weird. I've got quirks because I'm a human being. And that's what I did with this book, to pass it on to the next parents, families that have children with a child with a disability, or that don't have a child with a disability, or just anybody out there that just feels weird. And acceptance and understanding that, we kind of all are, and that we all do things our own way. This just happens to be a very, very simple way to convey that message with a boy who's severely autistic, whose actions in the story, when he was happy, he peed. He peed on the bed. When he was sad, he peed on the bed. Could never really tell whether he was happy or sad. The actions were the exact same. One of the things I focused on with my illustrator was that the face of the character of, my son, that it was very, that it didn't change, because his expression never changed at that time. I could never, he didn't smile. He didn't, it was either crying tantrum or, just kind of stoic. I guess it's the correct term. So I made sure that it was very exact to what we were dealing with.
Right, to what your reality was. Yeah. But I love, again, to say, I love that this is from the point of view of your daughter, who was trying to figure out what was going on. Now, this is Autism Awareness Month in April. And what do you want to make sure briefly that people know who are touched by autism in their family? What do you want people to know from your experience, and just how they can get the help that they need?
One, if you Google the word autism, you can get everything. There are great groups like Autism Speaks. Autism in the United States has a month. Starts April 2nd. World Autism Day is April 6th. So this is an international issue. It's not just here in the United States. For parents, 10% raise in divorce for parents with a child with autism. You're either going to divorce, or it will make you incredibly strong. Lean on each other. Give love to all the children. None of them asked to come into this world. We made the decision to have our children. To give them the responsibility to figure out their own emotional, mental health, like I did my own daughter. Don't. It's your job to be their rock. and you and your spouse or your other half, it's your job to be your other half's rock, as is their job to be your rock. So as long as we have a strong foundation, it makes it so much easier. And this can be the most beautiful journey you will ever go on. I feel so lucky to have the family structure that I have, to have the siblings, to have a son and a daughter that are as sweet, kind, and loving as they are. There are more amazing days today that I'm able to realize than ever in the past. In the past, they could have been great days for my son. He just showed it in his own way. And take it easy. The journey with autism, it's a journey. It's not an answer. It's not a destination. It's a journey. We learn more every single day.
And it's a lifelong journey, particularly, I know with your son, he's 16 now, and your daughter, as you said, you just celebrated her birthday at 18. It's a lifelong journey, and it's all how we look at it. It's all how we decide to approach it, right? And I love what you did here, and I love what you shared with so many people with his own way. I love the illustration in the front, if people can see it. It's just beautiful. It's really a beautiful.
And then by the end of the story, you'll come to understand that the illustration on the back cover makes sense because there's a turnaround.
Yeah, there is a turnaround. See, absolutely beautiful. I love it. Oh gosh, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. I wish we could even speak longer with you because I know you have so many stories to tell. Perhaps we'll invite you back. Okay, can we do that?
I have 5 more books coming out this year after this one. This is just the second one this year.
Oh, then we will be having you back. Okay. So everybody, please look up this book by Sergio Liden, His Own Way. And Sergio, we will have you back to talk about your other books and everything else that you're working on. I've enjoyed it very, very, very much. And how can people find the book? How can they get it and look you up too?
The easiest way to remember, my business partner is a dad and I'm a dad. So we're dadspublishing.com. We already know moms do everything. So the name of the company has nothing to do with dads are better than moms. No. We lost that race a long time ago. This is just dadspublishing.com.
Very good.
And that's where you can get everything.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm glad that you all had the strength to work through this. It's got to be very difficult. I'm not sure how I would deal with it, but I guess we just all find our way, right? And I guess the message is love there, right? We just have to stay, continue to love each other and be patient. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And please learn more about autism, as this is Autism Awareness Month. Very important because there is a wide spectrum to autism, as Sergio was talking to us about. And it can be very, very scary, especially in the beginning when you don't know what's going on. So thank you for joining us on Deborah Kobylt Live. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, IGTV, and all audio platforms for your podcasts. So have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.